Everybody thinks, oh, Dale Earnhardt, anything he had to do to win.
Right.
But in some ways, he was almost willing to defer that victory to you or Junior.
Well, he was certainly fighting so that it was a 1-2-3 finish, and I just, you know, I learned so much just not only watching the race coverage itself, the 500 miles, but listening to his talk prior to the race. He was purposely, he knew I'd lost a lot of races in a row. He told Napa I would win. He told our sponsors I would win. He told me I would win. And he was working on me. Every day of the week, he was working on me to make sure I was mentally ready to win. And when I started that 500, mission accomplished. I was convinced I was going to go win that race.
Right.
And it was because of his guidance and his coaching. And I couldn't wait for him to get to victory lane that day so I could say, how are we going to win the next one, Dale? I think he always thought, you know, you're a pretty good driver, and you've just done a crappy job managing your career. I'm your new manager now, and we're going to get things going.
Well, one thing I didn't realize, and I think maybe a lot of NASCAR fans won't have realized until I read the book, was that you guys were pretty close and you were good friends before you ever went to drive for him.
Yeah, I drove for the first time. I drove the first time for him in 1988. My brother let me drive his little car, his hobby, his nationwide car at Darlington. I ran third, and Dover, and I won. And so I went to Dale, and I'm like, you know, Darrell let me drive his car. Why don't you let me drive yours? I won in Darrell's car, and I don't even think I needed to add the I won in Darrell's car part. I think just because I drove Darrell's car, we can drive mine in. You know, he wanted to make sure that he knew.
Anything Darrell could do, he could do
better. That's right. And that's exactly what that was all about. So we had that first race in '88, and I drove for him again in the early '90s in the nationwide car that he had behind his house there. It was called the Deerhead Shop, and
because of all the deer heads.
You just walk in and look up, and you know why it's that. So you know, we were friends from the '80s. He actually convinced Buffy to go out with me on our first date. She worked at Sports Image, a company that Dale owned, and I told him I really wanted to go out with her, but I wasn't making any progress. And I said, "Will you go put a word in for me?" So he was responsible for us getting together, and then Buffy and Teresa became friends, and that meant the four of us spent a lot of time goofing off and doing things together. So we were friends, and he always told me, like I said, all through the 80s and 90s, that he believed in me. He believed I could win in his cars, and that's what happened.
You know, speaking of belief in starting Michael Waltrip Racing, obviously there was some belief there for you, a whole new endeavor being a team owner, and I know how tough that first year was for you. Was there any strength that you got through the experience that you had with Dale in your racing career that allowed you to persevere through that first year at MWR and bringing it to where it is today?
I always got inspiration from Dale. You know, I always, hey, I got an update. We got a couple things that have been happening since the interview started.
Exactly.
First of all, FedEx showed up.
We got about 30 books there, Mike.
Yeah, we got a bunch of books that are at Barnes & Noble here in Birkdale Village, so you can come get your book now. I'm going to sign them all. And then secondarily, I learned also that there's a device called Nook, and you can Nookie.
Yeah. You can read the book on the Nook.
Who's there?
Is it called Nookie?
No, it's Nook.
That would sell like hotcakes.
But
why don't you just sell hotcakes?
You can get this book on your Nook in 15 seconds.
That's right.
It's a lap at Bristol, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
You buy the book and you just download it directly to the Nook device and read it right off of there.
You can read the blink of an eye and the blink of an eye.
So if you walk in and they don't have a book, don't despair. Just go find your Nook and put your book on your Nook. And
put the book on your Nook.
This is a little over my head, but I'm sure because I see it here, it works. Now, how do you change pages?
I don't know, but how do you sign it?
Look.
See, look at that.
Well,
it's working.
Darn. Look at my
dedication.
There's my dedication.
There you go. There you go.
If not for Darrell, I would never have started dreaming. If not for Richard, I might still be dreaming. If not for Dale, I don't believe my dreams would ever have come true.
Yeah, my brother inspired me to race cars. Richard Petty helped direct me on how to get to NASCAR, and then, of course, Dale made me a winner.
But it was your other brother who actually put you in the seat for the first time. He was a little bit holding back in terms of getting you a ride.
Well, I love what I learned about myself during the writing of this book. I became really thankful for Bobby. You know, my brother Bobby, he's the one that let me race his go-kart for the first time. And I know his go-kart was better than those other kids I was racing against.
But you were still kicking their
I was
butt.
winning, you know, and I'm like, I can do this. And when you're 12, that's great to have that sort of confidence. So it made me want to hug Bobby, thank Bobby, because if it weren't for Bobby, then you don't get rolling.
And
so,
you were the youngest in a pretty big family.
Yeah, there was 5 of us.
So, to have that kind of success and to really stand out, that must have been important to you.
It was important, and it was important because I wanted it so bad. Like, from the time I was 5 or 6, I wanted to be a race car driver, and you know, everybody wants to be a race car driver. A lot of kids do, and a lot of kids get the opportunity, but they don't have the talent or the ability, or the circumstances don't work out for them to be race car drivers. So to have the chance and then to be good at it, I always remember thinking, wow, this is so cool. I'm actually really good at something.
Yeah.
Because I start the book off by saying that I love sports, every sport, and I was amazingly mediocre at all. So.
Well, and we should note that the book, although the heart of it is DEI and the Daytona 500 in 2001, you start it from your childhood in Kentucky and you end it with the founding of MWR in 2007. So it's not just that Daytona race.
Yeah, that was important to me. It's not a biography; it's a memoir. My goal was to write a book about that day so that I could deal with that day better. But in order to tell the story of that day, I needed everybody to know how I got there. I didn't just show up in Daytona. You know, it was a long road to get to that race, and it was a lot of people were very kind to me, and it just warms my heart to have the opportunity to sit down and think about all the people that were so good to me and allowed me the opportunities to race that day. And then, of course, if it weren't for that day and the success I had driving the Napa car, I don't think Toyota would have ever come knocking, and we wouldn't have that big building over there in Cornelius that we house our race cars and 240 employees that build those cars. So there's I'm just humbled and overwhelmed by what some people say, you know, and it's unfair, but I hear it, and I know y'all have heard it, like, he's an average race car driver. Well, I'm not. I'm really good at it.
You won 2 Daytona 500s.
Yeah, there's not a lot of dudes that can say that.
So when I tell my whole story, I'm thinking, wow, I was pretty good at it. I get to remind myself, you know, and so that's really special for me because a lot of people believed in me, and you know, I'm glad I was able to achieve what I did for them.
Well, I think it's awesome that you came out and talked to us about it. I think it's a great time, obviously. 10-year anniversary of that big race. A couple weeks to the Daytona 500. Michael Waltrip, glad we finally found you, man. Thanks for coming on by.
I sneak around.
Yeah, you're pretty good at that.
Barnes & Noble, Birkdale Village, there are now lots of books.
Lots of them.
To be had.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.